Welcome to your new zip knife, the Scalpel of hoof knives. To get the best trimming results, you need to be aware of its distinctive traits. The blade is mounted to the hardwood handle by bolts rather than rivets. If, after extensive use, you ever feel that the blade is no longer solidly fixed to the handle, just tighten the bolts. The zip blade is shorter than most knives to keep your hand closer to the end of it. This gives you greater control and leverage when applying the blade. When you need precise control, grip the handle over the juncture of handle and blade. We call this the choke grip. The arc of the blade is straighter than most knives. This makes it more effective at shaving and slicing. The zip is designed to function like a fine paring knife, not a meat cleaver. It is not intended for scooping out thick chunks of horn. The hook is relatively small to allow you to shave the deeper parts of the grooves of the frog and the sulcus. This also makes it better suited to shaving deteriorated horn from the white line. Most importantly, the blade is exceptionally thin, being tapered from the spine directly to the cutting edge. This is what makes the blade so sharp and effective at precise shaving. But this thin edge is also more delicate than heavier knife blades. Thus, it is not suited to digging in thick, rough, hard horn. Avoid dirt, rocks, and prying with the blade. Use it like a scalpel, not a carving knife. The thinness of the zip blade lowers the angle of sharpening, making it easier and faster to hone to a razor-sharp edge. Use a medium to fine grit tapered diamond sharpening rod. Gently but firmly pull the rod across the very edge of the knife. A few strokes after every couple uses will maintain the fine edge of the blade. Frequent sharpening will avoid deforming this edge. When sharpening the hook, be careful to move the sharpening rod uniformly around the bend of the hook. Avoid sawing back and forth in one spot, as this will quickly create a groove in the edge of the blade. After honing the front side of the blade and the hook, gently run the sharpening rod across the back side. Hold the rod flat on the back surface of the blade to avoid creating a bevel on the cutting edge. You want the back of the blade to be absolutely flat and smooth. Test the edge to make sure you have smoothed away any burrs created by sharpening the front of the blade. The handle is contoured to give you a firm grip on the midsection of the knife. This is the basic grip and is used for direct pulls when shaving layers of horn. For additional leverage, place your thumb on the curved surface at the end of the handle. This thumb bracing grip is used for pivoting the hook of the blade. For controlled shaving across the back of the frog and trimming its corners to open the ends of the frog grooves, use the slicing grip. The basic mid-grip can be modified by reversing the knife in your hand. This reverse mid-grip allows you to apply the blade by pushing it away from your body. By moving your hand over the front end of the handle, you get a choke grip. This gives you maximum control over the hook when shaving harder bits of horn. The thumb grip can also be reversed so that you can work the edge of the knife away from your body. Added power and control can be achieved by using two hands. Two-hand grips allow you to brace part of one hand against the hoof. As you pull the knife in an arc, you can use your bracing hand as a fulcrum and pivot point to increase your control and leverage. By using the choke grip with one hand, you can add the other hand to the end of the handle for increased power and control. The three basic grips and their variations give you options for how to apply the knife to make different cuts, whether pulling, pushing, or pivoting the blade while making long slices or small shaves. Be sure to experiment with these grips. Reversing the knife in your hand can add strength and precision in some positions. Pulling the blade directly back toward your body is effective when slicing and shaving. For short scoops of the hook, push the end of the handle away from your body as you pull the blade toward you. This creates a precise, quick arcing motion. For controlled shaving of the sole, brace the back of your hand against the opposite side of the hoof and pivot the knife in your hand. Using an overlapping two-hand grip adds control and power to shaving specific areas of sole. When using two hands one above the other, pull evenly with both hands to make straight slices along the sides of the frog. This same motion can be effective for cleaning a longer, relatively flat sulcus groove. To slice thin layers off the rear of the frog, move the knife back and forth in a sawing motion. You can tip the knife to guide the edge over the rounded contours of the frog and sulcus groove. It's usually best to skip over the deeper part of the sulcus groove when making this slicing cut. Then you can angle the knife to cut downward along the sides of the sulcus groove. After trimming the top and sides of the frog, use the slicing grip to trim the corners and open the rear of the frog grooves to prevent dirt from packing into them. When working the knife with a one-hand grip, you can use your free hand to steady the hoof. Bracing your forearm on your thigh also adds stability and enables you to pivot your wrist more effectively. Hand and forearm bracing can be combined. In some positions, you can brace with both forearms and one hand. This can give you better access to the frog. These supports can also be combined with bracing the back of your knife hand against the hoof itself to further enhance leverage and precision. Bracing your hands against the hoof itself is particularly useful when shaving the white line. Using a two-hand grip, press part of one hand against the hoof. In this way, you can pivot the knife around the point of contact between your hand and the hoof. In addition, this positioning allows you to add focused force by pulling with your fingers. The zip blade is designed to shave and slice, not gouge and dig. To maintain its razor-sharp edge, avoid using it on dirt, gravel, and hardened horn. Clean the frog, bars, and white line first, and you will get the best results and the longest useful life from your knife. An EVO bar and sole rasp quickly prepares the way for smooth, precise shaving of bars and white line. You can also use a stiff wire brush to remove dirt and grit before applying your knife. When applying the zip knife, be sure to vary your grip on it to get the most control for different types of cuts. Take time to think about how you can hold the knife to work each part of the hoof. It is helpful to begin by trimming the rear of the frog first, as this can make shaving the sides easier. You only need to remove old, deteriorated horn. That is why a thin blade like the zips is best for frog trimming. Use flicking cuts to trim away any flaps above the buttresses of the heels. Be sure to trim out the corners of the frog to avoid dirt trapping in the grooves. Rotate the knife in your hand to get access to both corners. Start your side cut at the back of the frog grooves with a twisting motion. If the horn is tough, wiggle the knife forward and backward in the cut. Make your second side cut from the point of the frog backward, pressing the hook of the knife into the bottom of the groove to gauge the angle of the cut. Be sure to clean out the bottom of the grooves. If you expose pockets of deterioration, clean these with a twisting corkscrew motion and flicks of the hook. Plane the top of the frog by holding the knife blade nearly flat against it, starting at the point. Then turn the knife more vertically to shave the sides of the sulcus groove with short pulls and flicks. If there is a pitted area or lump at the very back of the sulcus, slice it from the sides in an arcing cut, then use flick cuts to touch up any small pits. But be careful, sensitive tissue can be close to the surface in this groove. Shave thin layers and only remove deteriorated horn. You can also shave the sulcus groove using two hands while bracing one on the side of the hoof to gain more control over the knife blade. Here is another view of cutting out the corners of the frog at the back of the grooves. Even that little bit can make a big difference in keeping the frogs from packing dirt. Here you see the same process using one hand on the knife while the other hand holds the hoof. This position gives you less control over both the hoof and the knife, making it easier to cut too deeply into the sulcus or even slip off the hoof and cut yourself. You can easily see here how much less steady the hoof is and how much more difficult the knife work is. Taking the time to clean the surface before applying your knife is well worth it. By removing dirty, rough horn on the bars and carefully scraping the white line, you will make your shaving more precise and keep your knife sharp. A curved bar and sole rasp does this easily, allowing you to use your knife with more precision and less effort. Be certain to remove any grit and rocks lodged in the white line itself, as these are particularly hard on the fine edge of the zip knife. Here you will see white line and bar shaving using a range of grips and positions for bracing one hand on the hoof. Obviously, a hoof stand with a cradle makes this work much easier and more precise. When trimming white line, your objective is to remove deteriorated horn that is likely to promote further fungal and yeast infections, which weaken the bond of the sole to the outer wall. So shave thin layers until you have exposed healthy horn. Try to leave a flat, even surface all along the edge. And be sure to clean out the very corners at the angle of the wall and the bars. Only trim the bars down to the level of healthy sole horn around them and leave them as smooth as possible. If there are dark streaks or spots of fungal infection in the bars themselves, use the hook to pare these out, as they can promote abscesses. Take care to clean the very depths of the frog grooves. Using the choke grip on the zip blade gives you maximum control over the hook end. This allows you to make very precise flick cuts that remove paper-thin layers of horn in very specific areas. Again, this precision helps you avoid removing more sole horn than necessary to clean away deteriorated areas. When you are trimming barefoot horses, it is important to maintain as much thickness of healthy sole horn between the point of the frog and the toe wall as possible. So precision and fine cutting are very helpful. Another useful technique is pushing the hook against the frog, using it as a fulcrum around which you pivot the blade. This increases your leverage and prevents the knife from slipping on the horn surface. Use all these grips and bracing techniques so you can zip through your trimming. But be careful. The zip blade really is razor sharp. Keep it under control at all times. Avoid gouging. Use a light touch. And send us your feedback. We want to know about your experience with our tools.